Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Hump Day.
Uh-oh. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
That's right, folks. Today is Hump Day, the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as Mike and I like to say, the fun is all in the try. And I have to say, so far, when it comes to beginning the weekend, so far, this has been an epic fail for me. Still got a lot of work to do. Had a lot of work to do today, and I'll have a lot of work to do when I get done here. So I'm gonna enjoy this show, this time to just chill, sit back, and talk with you. And I'm gonna ride this puppy like it's stolen. Let me tell you. Mike, unfortunately, will not be with us today, but that's why you're here. You're here so that you can have some input. If you're watching the show live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, we're monitoring your comments. Whatever you have to say, we would love to share it. All we ask is that it be interesting. You don't have to agree with us. You can even disagree with us. In fact, disagreement is just as interesting. But do know that you disagree. If you disagree with us, we do reserve the right to mock you.
Oh, wow. Is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
That's right. Excuse me. We reserve the right to mock you. Because, mocking is more fun. Anyway, there's a whole lot in the news today. I got to tell you, the hardest thing about today was figuring out what we were going to talk about. And that's because there are so many different things. And I think a lot of people, and I, by the way, I do listen to a couple of other news shows and podcasts, just to kind of see what topics are trending and see what people are interested in. And I try not to just do the stuff that everybody's talking about. Try to do some different stuff. But obviously there's some things that you have to talk about, especially if you're going to be a 2A program. So we're going to go ahead and get into it today, but we're going to start with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with folks over at Hitman Industries. They have a rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length. All you have to do is go to hitmanindustries.net. Now, if you've purchased an AR in the last couple of years, there's a good chance you already have one of their barrels, so why not get another one, right? Whether you're looking to do a brand new build or just rebarrel an old rifle, go to hitmanindustries.net first. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working behind enemy lines to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to find out why. Just visit them online at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then if you're looking for a holster, let me tell you where you can find the best in concealed carry tactical holsters on the market. That would be hogholsters.com. All you have to do is go to hogholsters.com. And by the way, and make sure you use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. And you're going to get your holster on discount. That, once again, that's hogholsters.com, HAWG holsters.com. That's helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, if you're looking for outdoor gear, if you're looking for warm weather gear, hot weather gear, wet weather gear, cold weather gear, whatever kind of tactical gear you're looking for, you will find it at uscombatgear.com, where they specialize in group sales. So if you want to go there, check them out, spend some money with them. Folks, let me tell you, they have the best customer service available on the market, competitive prices, and a huge selection. Visit them online once again at uscombatgear.com. All right, getting into today's news story. Sadly, we're reporting there's been another active shooter situation, or another mass fatality event involving firearms, this case in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Well, needless to say, there are so many things that are a part of this that just have started to become kind of commonplace as we've started to see these things happening here. Number one, it was at a Catholic school. It was at a Christian school. Christians were targeted in this particular act of violence. Number two, it was a left-wing activist who was part of this, as has been revealed by the manifesto and a number of other different things. Number three, this person happened to be trans, which seems to be a rising number of incidents of violence involving folks from the LGBTQ community. Although I more pack that into the whole left-wing ideology as the quote unquote trend, not necessarily unique to the trans community. And then finally, you have a left-wing liberal mayor who says this is no time for prayers and well wishes. We need to ban guns. That's right. So it's all the usual characters are arrayed in this particular story. This here being reported by the folks over at the New York Post. It says Minneapolis school shooter ID'd as trans woman Robin Westman as apparent manifesto included "Kill Trump." It says the deranged gunman who slaughtered 2 children and injured at least 19 others at a Catholic school in Minneapolis has been identified as a transgender woman, as disturbing videos posted by the shooter show a handwritten manifesto and "Kill Donald Trump" and "For the Children" scrawled on gun magazines. Robin Westman, formerly Robert Westman, opened fire through the stained glass windows of a church at the Annunciation Catholic School, where he attended, during a celebratory back-to-school mass filled with children around 8:30 a.m. Wednesday. Just hours before the cowardly massacre, Westman 23 posted a series of twisted videos on YouTube, which included a manifesto. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara confirmed at the press conference. In one 20-minute video, Westman flips through the disturbing handwritten manifesto. Much of it is written in a homespun code, uses Cyrillic characters and English phonetic words. In the deranged writings, he gleefully fantasizes about, quote, being the scary, horrible monster standing over those powerless kids, end quote, and reverently confesses admiration for the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre. Westman applied to change his birth name from Robert to Robin in Dakota County, Minnesota, when he was 17 years old, according to court documents. That name change was granted in January of 2020. The petition added Westman identifies as female and wants her name to reflect that indication. But 5 years later, he seems to have backed away from that identity. So saying now he's backed away. So even though it's still the name, decided not to go through with the I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what they're going on here, what they mean by that. But folks, here's the thing. And this is why I'll just say this. I don't blame this on the fact that this individual is trans. All right. I know that there's a lot of people out there who are talking about that. And they've got their theories and all of that. But here's really what I'll go back and I'll say it is again. I believe that it is a part of the neo-Marxist cultural Marxism, right? This is all a part of the very same thing. Well, a lot of what you see when you see the trans theory or the new queer theory or modern feminism or critical race theory. A big part of what all of this is, it's about undermining our institutions. And they do everything from undermining the government, undermining our electoral system, undermining law enforcement, undermining our schools, undermining the church, undermining marriage, undermining human sexuality altogether, in order to create this sort of, once again, this revolution, this tearing down of all that is, in order for whatever it is, something to rise out of the ashes like a phoenix. That's what their goal is here. And it's not unique to the trans community. It's not unique to LGBTQ. It's not unique to the environmentalists, but it's in all of them. And I guarantee you, take some time and go and read Das Kapital. Go and read the Communist Manifesto. Go and read the writings of Marx and Engels. Listen for the phrases, listen for the terms, listen for the terminology, and then go back and read our works on critical race theory, on queer theory, on trans theory, on modern feminism, on environmentalism or climate change. It's all the same. The terms, the terminology, the goals and the outcomes are all the same. That's why I put this once again as an attack on, as a left-wing attack, because that's what this is. This is a left-wing attack, and they are targeting children, they are targeting the church, and they are targeting institutions. And the thing is, and this is the hard part, is that I'm not sitting here and telling you that the people who believe in this stuff are knowingly or specifically encouraging people to go and shoot up kids or to shoot up churches. What they're attempting to do is to undermine those institutions so that people will reject them. The problem is that in any ideological movement, right or left, this is not unique to what it says, not unique to just the left. You have people who go too far. You have people who take what you say when you consider something to be an empirical threat. When you say that Donald Trump is going to lock up anybody who's LGBTQ or lock up the media, or he's going to destroy democracy, there are people out there who believe, well, then if we don't want him to do that, we need to take him out. And they believe that. Once again, I'm not saying that everybody who says that actually means physical violence needs to be what takes place. But trust me, there are enough people who believe it that they do it. And that's what you're seeing in many of these cases on the left, whether it is attempted assassinations of Donald Trump, whether it is school shootings, whether it is church shootings, whether it is attacks on law enforcement. All of these are the result of the same left-wing, neo-Marxist, cultural Marxist rhetoric. They are the ones who are inciting violence. And yet they don't want it. Yet the first thing you have the mayor of Minneapolis come out and do and say, well, we have more guns than we have people in the United States. Well, this person went out and bought 3 guns legally in Minnesota. And Minnesota is not a pro-Second Amendment state. They have very strict gun laws there in Minnesota. So you're telling me that someone had the ability to go out and buy firearms in a very, very anti-gun state, a state that believes in gun control, and was able to do this. Here's the reason why. Because it's not a gun problem. It's a people problem. And I'm willing to bet as time goes on, we're going to hear stories from people who knew this individual, who thought there was something a little off with them, and didn't say anything. It invariably happens. It almost always happens. We've got to try and find a way to be able to express our political differences without the over-the-top hyperbolic rhetoric. And no, you don't get to blame Donald Trump, because y'all were calling Republicans Nazis almost my entire adult life. In fact, I went and I looked up all the Republican candidates for president. And with the exception of John McCain, every single one of the presidential candidates, every single Republican who ran for president in my adult life, y'all on the left have either called them a Nazi or called them the next Hitler. So, you've accused them of putting people back in chains. You've accused them of saying that their election is akin to dragging a black man to death behind a truck. I mean, you've called Republicans the next Bull Connor, who happened to be a Democrat. For those of you who do not know, that is the Democrat sheriff down south who turned fire hoses and police dogs on civil rights protesters. And he was a Democrat. You do that, and then you don't think that there are people who listen to you who are going to act on it. How many instances do you need? How many instances of evidence? I mean, when people talk about it, and we'll talk about this particular case, when you talk about the trans community, right? When you hear people saying they're going to end the trans community, they're going to lock up the trans community, they're going to kill people if they are trans. Now, there's nobody on the right saying that. Nobody, let me clarify, nobody with any credibility, nobody who is in elective office, nobody who is in a position to pass any policy, anything like that. I'm not going to sit here and try and pretend like there aren't people who are like that on the right. I'm just not going to do that. There are also people like that on the left. See your friends over there in Hamas. Just saying. You know, the Free Palestine folks, yeah. Look amongst those folks. Those of you who are part of Queers for Palestine, look at look at some of the people you're protesting with, just so you know. Not saying, just saying. But we got to stop with this stuff. We really do. We've got to try and figure out how we can. And by the way, just so you know, for those of you who are liberal Democrats, who are truly Democrats, I get that many of you want that too. You want us to be able to disagree. You want us to be able to debate. You may be angry if you lose the argument, but you still believe we disagree, we debate, we put it up for a vote. I know you're out there. I talk to a lot of you. Many of you are my friends. But there are many who are with you in the Democratic Party and on the left who are, like I said, they're cultural Marxists, they're neo-Marxists, they call themselves progressive. For them, the violence, the name calling, the animosity, it's not a bug, it's the feature. It's what their goal is. And if you read Rules for Radicals, you come to understand how it works, because their goal is to make you hate the enemy, right? They're not supposed to be the loyal opposition. They're supposed to be the enemy. Their goal is to silence the enemy, because there is to be no debating with the enemy. The enemy is supposed to be silenced by any means necessary. That's their goal. And I guarantee you this, and I've said it before on the show innumerable times, if they are ever successful in ridding the world of conservatives, you're next. Moving right along. We've talked about this before. There's a lot of rhetoric out there going on right now. Donald Trump, I think we're still on, I need to check, but I think we're on 13 days now, 12, 13 days with no homicides in Washington, D.C. I know we're seeing the crime has gone down significantly in Washington, D.C., all thanks to the troops that have been put out there by Trump. Now, I will be the first to tell you, and I will be the first to agree with you. Look, the things that have happened, the successes that's happening, it's temporary because because of the troops are there. But here's the deal. It shows that more visible people, the more you have people visible there to enforce the law, the less likely people are going to commit crimes. In fact, they're more likely to skedaddle and go someplace that's a little bit more crime friendly. Anyway, but there's a lot of polls out now where I see how people feel about crime and how people feel about Donald Trump and the work that he's doing. And I wanted to share this poll because this is an AP NORC poll from the University of Chicago. So this is a left-wing poll. So I wanted to show, for those of you on the left, I wanted you to show I wanted to show you that this is what you all folks think. It says overall, 53% of Americans approve of how Trump is handling crime, higher than his overall job approval or approval rating or approval on other issues. says here earlier this month, President Trump activated the National Guard members to reduce crime in Washington, D.C., and has threatened similar federal interventions in other large cities. Two-thirds of the public think crime is a major problem in the country overall, and 8 in 10 say it is a major problem in large cities. Only about a fifth say crime is a major problem in small towns or rural areas or in their own community. 55% of the public think it's acceptable for U.S. military and National Guard to assist local police in large cities, but only a third support federal government taking control over major city police departments. There are large differences in the views of Republicans and Democrats regarding to the use of the military in urban enforcement. About 8 in 10 Republicans say it's acceptable for the federal government to use the military and National Guard to assist local police. However, only half think it's acceptable for the federal government to take over control of large city police departments. Democrats are opposed to having the federal government send troops to large cities at all. And here's kind of how this kind of, well, if you look through this, you'll see how the numbers kind of break down. I got to tell you, and this is the thing. So there's a difference between whether or not you think it's a good idea or whether it's acceptable or not. First of all, let's just be clear. President Trump does not have the authority to take over local police departments. He had the ability to do that in Washington, D.C., because that's part of the law, right? That's the law in Washington, D.C. It's not a state unto itself. He has it both in the Constitution and in law that he had the ability to do exactly what he did. Now, what he's doing is he's showing the effectiveness of it. What he can do is he can have them, he can coordinate and work with cities or states who wish to have them come in, wish to have them come in. Now, the other thing that he can do is like what he had done in California and Los Angeles when there were riots. He can institute the Insurrection Act, where you clearly have people who were rioting and were attacking federal agents and federal law enforcement, and he sent the troops to basically protect them. They were not enforcing the law. They were not enforcing local law. They were simply, their job was to protect federal facilities, protect federal agents. Now, by the way, this poll here is in desperate contrast to what the left would have you believe. And this goes once again to show how disconnected the left is, how disconnected Democrats are in their luxury beliefs. There's no problem with crime. There is no problem with crime because they're not the ones that are dealing with it. They're not the ones who are getting carjacked. They're not the ones whose businesses are getting robbed, who are getting ransacked. Right? They're not the ones who are being carjacked. They're not having to deal with it. Yet if you talk to the people in the communities, many of them say it's a problem. Now, yes, they don't want federal troops. I wouldn't want federal troops because, well, that's just, first of all, most federal troops are not trained for law enforcement. MPs are, but they're not trained for law enforcement. They are trained for a wholly different mission. So yeah, no, not a big fan. Not a big fan of law enforcement, of them doing it. Now, if you want to have them adding and doing some stuff, adding infrastructure, right? Doing some health, doing some things that are not necessarily law enforcement related, but are law enforcement adjacent, so that those who are in law enforcement can focus on enforcing the law, that's different. But I still think you need to have the permission of the folks. And that's where I think it would make sense to work with local municipalities. Go to them, say, hey, we want to we're open. And I think Donald Trump has said that. I'm here. If you want me to help, if you want my help, let's talk. Right? That's how it should be done. Because here's the thing, folks, law enforcement should not be a partisan thing. It really shouldn't. Keeping people safe should not be a number one thing. It is among, if not the highest purpose of government, is to protect the people from all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? Meaning to enforce laws and to enforce the laws here and to make sure that other countries don't come in here and try and mess with us. That's really kind of the biggest thing the government's supposed to be doing. And they're not. It should not be politicized. But once again, it makes no sense. It does no good if, as a part of this, you're going to have policies that say we're going to decriminalize crime. That we're going to, if someone commits a crime, we're going to let them out, back out on the streets. We're not even going to charge them bail. We're not even going to give them any serious time. If that is going to be your tactic, then you are going to epically fail. Then it does absolutely no good. If you do not enforce laws, laws mean nothing. There's suggestions. And while there are many, quite honestly, most people will follow those suggestions, there are many who will not. And what you will wind up forcing people to do is, if you do not enforce law and order, if you do not promote law and order, Mr. Politician, Mr. Republican, Mr. Democrat, then the people will seek to do it themselves. And you will not like it if that happens. You will not like it if that happens. It will not be good for America if that winds up being the modus operandi. All right, hey, we got Patrick Collins, the gun foodie. Got to check him out to get the gun food. If you need ammo, he is the guy you need to go to. Trust me, excellent customer service. We're talking, if you call over there, chances are he's the one answering the phone. And he will ship you your ammo like lickety split. He's got folks all over the place that can help get ammo to you. So you want to check him out. He's actually watching live from China. So for those of you who are watching us recorded and can't bother to watch live, Patrick got you. He's watching from China. From China! He's watching. Thanks for tuning in, man. Very much appreciate you and appreciate your support. You are definitely a good brother. Now, if you want to know, like, who's promoting and who's pushing a lot of this neo-Marxist BS, let's just be honest. A lot of it is coming from a lot of these left-wing millionaires. One of them, and probably chief among them, is George Soros. George Soros has spent, I'm going to say, I feel pretty comfortable saying he's probably spent billions of dollars promoting left-wing ideology. If you want to know why we have this quote-unquote smart on crime, let me put my air quotes again, smart on crime thing going on right now, where they've decriminalized crime and let the criminals out on the streets. A big, huge part of that is thanks to George Soros, who spent a lot of money electing left-wing Marxist attorneys general, as well as district attorneys throughout the country. I believe at one point, 60% of Americans were under the jurisdiction of either a George Soros-funded AG or district attorney. Now, the reason why I say at one point is because in many places they are starting to reject these folks. They did it in Los Angeles. They did it in San Francisco. And they're doing it in other places. They're working to unseat these folks and remove them from office. Now, sadly, in the case of those in California, we still have a Soros-funded attorney general, but he's termed out. So we'll see what Marxist replaces him. But one of the other things that they've been doing is funding protests. And when I say funding protests, I mean funding in particular some of the protests that have gotten out of hand and have gone violent. So Trump has called for George Soros and his son Alex, who's now kind of in charge of the fortune, to face RICO charges. Won't allow these lunatics to rip apart America. Let's read a little bit from the story over at Breitbart. President Donald Trump called for leftist billionaire and mega donor George Soros and his son Alex Soros to be prosecuted under the Racketeering, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act due to their financial support of violent protesters in the United States. In a post on Truth Social, Trump accused Soros and his group of psychopaths, that's a quote from Trump, of causing great damage to the United States. Trump added that his administration would not allow these lunatics to rip apart America any longer. Quote, George Soros and his wonderful radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more. And throughout the United States of America, Trump wrote, quote, we are not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore, never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and be free. According to the Department of Justice's website, in October 1970, quote, the Organized Crime Control Act of 1970 became law. Title IX of the act is the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Statute, which seeks to eliminate the infiltration of organized crime and racketeering into legitimate organizations. The DOJ site explains on a, oh no, I'm not even going to bother reading all that. Here it goes. Here we go. Breitbart News has reported that George and Alex Soros's Open Society Foundations partially funded the organizations behind a rally on Monday for accused MS-13 gang member and illegal alien Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Soros's Open Society Foundation is reported to have thrown millions at leftist group CASA to advocate for mass immigration. So, I mean, here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say to this. First of all, RICO cases are not easy to make, right? They're not easy to make because you have to find, first of all, what's the underlying crime, and then you have to show the active coordination and intent to help support those crimes. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't sleep at Holiday Inn Express last night, but that's my understanding of the law. What I believe, at least an investigation into whether or not they are guilty of RICO, can at least help Americans see what they are doing. An investigation where all the facts were to come out, we could at least see exactly the types of organizations, the type of funding, and the intent that George Soros, Alex Soros, and the Open Society Foundations have when it comes to the United States of America, and decide whether or not that's someone or those are organizations that we want our nation to be involved in. Whether or not, or by the way, whether or not what they're doing is legal. First off, let's find out if it's legal or not, and if it's not, if it is legal, should it be? Should they be allowed to do it? But I think investigating it at the very least is a necessity. There were rumors that during the BLM riots, the George Floyd riots, that they were funding and paying for protesters, agitators specifically, to fly all around the country. And these aren't the people who were marching and were peacefully protesting. These were a lot of people who were agitating the violence and the rioting and the looting. There were rumors of pallets of bricks and stones and rocks just showing up at protests. No one knows how they were paid for. No one knows where they came from. Did they come from Soros? Did they come from the Open Society Foundation? I don't know, but it'd be good to find out. All right, if it came from them or if it came from someone else, it would be good to find out. Because these are the sorts of things that, once again, going back, that the progressives and the Marxists are instituting to try and undermine our government. They're trying to undermine our society, undermine our institutions. It's not an accident. It's not just happening, folks. It's a plan. It may be a bunch of different people planning. They may have different intentions in the end, but they all agree on one thing. They want to see Western culture fall. Whether it's the Free Palestine, Kill All the Jews group, whether it is the LGBTQ group, whether it is the CRT Black Lives Matter group, or whether it's the radical environmentalists. Trust me, or just the plain old-fashioned economic Marxists. They all have one goal: tear down American society, tear down Western culture, tear down the family, tear down the church, tear down human sexuality, tear it all down. That's their goal. And, when I look at some of the things that are going on right now, I'll put it to you this way. America is still the greatest country on this earth, but we're not headed the right direction. And I pray that we don't fall victim to these tactics. But I got to say, looking good. All right. In other news, Trump has issued an edict for those who are wishing to receive federal funding. Let's see here. The Trump administration has put 46 states and territories on notice to remove gender ideology content from sex ed materials. This is from the Health and Human Services. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services through its administration for children and families, demanded that 46 states and territories remove all references to gender ideology in their federally funded personal responsibility education program, education materials within 60 days. This action reflects the Trump administration's ongoing commitment to protect children from attempts to indoctrinate them with delusional ideology. Last week, ACF terminated California PrEP grant after the state failed to meet its demand to remove gender ideology from its educational materials. States and territories receiving these new letters are now on notice. Failure to comply will result in similar enforcement actions, including the withholding, suspension, and termination of federal PrEP funding. Quote, accountability is coming, said Acting Assistant Secretary Andrew Gradison. Federal funds will not be used to poison the minds of the next generation or advance dangerous ideological agendas. The Trump administration will ensure that PrEP reflects the intent of Congress, not the priorities of the left. Here. One of the things I think we need that we cannot ignore in all of this is the goal of the left. And if you go back and you read, if you want to read a good book that talks about this, go read a book called The Marxification of Education by James Lindsay. And you'll hear about a guy named Paulo Freire. He is a old radical. He's an education expert from Brazil. For many who many use his tools and tactics in education today. I believe he was the kind of the founder of the dialectical approach to education, where you kind of talk to students where they're at and you try and help make the content relatable by relating and applying it to their situation, asking them questions about their current situation, about their own views, values, yada, yada, yada. But if you understand who Paulo Freire was, you know he didn't believe that reading, writing, and arithmetic was the real education. He's like, to him, that was all bull. That's sideline. Education was about economic, cultural, and political education. It was about making sure that they thought right, so that they could then be activists in the system. And so, once again, when you know all of that, you understand how a lot of this stuff plays out. And so a lot of what you have people doing, you have a lot of people in the left in education who are putting these things out. And once again, their goal is to indoctrinate our kids. There's a reason why they want your kids earlier in the morning at school. There's a reason why they want them younger. There's a reason why they want them to stay after school. There's a reason why they want to have control over curriculum, and they don't want you to have the right to be able to see it and opt your kids out, because they want to control and indoctrinate your children. They understand exactly what Karl Marx understood. I know you guys are getting tired of me going back and talking about Karl Marx and like, everybody's not a socialist. No, many of them are Marxists, and a lot of them that aren't are useful idiots. Yeah, also a Karl Marx term. Anyway, but a lot of them are useful idiots. they think they're doing good, but really what they're doing is harm. And here's the thing. If these are ideas that you want to have, you have every right to have them. You have every right to believe them. You have every right to read them, right? But what you don't have the right to do is have the government forcefully indoctrinate everybody else. And that's what he's talking about here. That's what Donald Trump is challenging here. It's not a question of whether or not some of these things are things that ought to be or should eventually be discussed or talked in school. In many cases, one, you shouldn't be doing it without parental notification and parents being able to say whether or not they want their kids engaged in it. And then number two, even if you do, you need to present all sides of the subject. Right? You don't just get to present one side. One side is not education, one side is indoctrination. And he wants to work to make sure that it's not indoctrination. And the other thing that's a part of this is, once again, going back to the idea of local control. When I say local control in education, specifically, it should be the parents, local community, and the parents, not even the state. Because right here in California, you have very, very different ideas as to what kids should be learning over here in the state capital that you have in many other communities throughout the state of California. So hats off to President Trump for doing this. Obviously, it's something that's going to wind up in court. But we all know Donald Trump is he's no coward. He's not scared or worried about taking these folks to court. All right, folks, well, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com, use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, and get your hog holster today. All right, all of our parting shots today are going to be brought to you by our good friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. That's right, let me say it again, fake news that you can trust. Folks, let me just say this. If you haven't already subscribed over there, you should. And the reason why you should is this. They are hilarious, and they are good at at exposing the craziness and the kookiness of the left. I'll be honest with you. I don't read a lot of their articles because I know that's fake news. Mostly I read the headlines, but because they are so effective. Oh, but I do watch their videos. Their videos are not only good, but they're not only right on, but they are hilarious. I want to encourage you, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe over there, because we need to be supporting people who are with us on the culture war. And once again, they're not conservatives. They're probably more libertarian than anything, but they do a very, very good job of exposing the left. So I would encourage you to join the folks over there at the Babylon Bee. All right, let's get on with our things here. You might have heard that the Cracker Barrel wars are over, and they've decided that they are not going to get rid of their old logo. They're going to keep the old logo. I'm hoping that means they're also going to keep the old store, the old place, the old kind of country, Southern country feel, along with that menu. I hope they keep that menu. The menu is phenomenal. For those of us who don't live in the South and don't necessarily have Southern cooking available to us 24/7. Anyway, this from over at the Babylon Bee. Overcorrection? Cracker Barrel adds Confederate flag to logo and changes name to The South Will Rise Again. Okay, yeah, that there might be a little bit of an overcorrection. Not saying, just saying. By the way, you may have heard that Kelsey and Tay got you know who Tay is, right? That's Taylor Swift. They got engaged. And as reported by the folks over at the Babylon Bee, Travis Kelsey finally acquires ring without the help of referees. Anybody who is a fan in the NFL gets that joke. It is hilarious. And if you're not a fan of the NFL, you don't watch football. Sorry. Don't know what to tell you. And then finally, you've probably heard about all of the rape gangs that have been going on there in rape and grooming gangs that have been taking place all throughout Great Britain. And their attempt to cover it up is pretty much what the government has been trying to do. Well, the Babylon Bee has a new take on it. UK enacts plan to stop rape gangs by arresting all potential rape victims. See, the sad part about this is that that's probably not too far off from the truth. If you know what's going on over there in UK, whether it's in the media or the politicians, you know that that's not too far off from the truth. It's weird the way, I mean, I always say this, it gets hard. It's almost impossible to parody reality because reality just sometimes comes across that whacked out. Anyway, all right, folks, that brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we're going to give another quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase. HitmanIndustries.net. We got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. You can find them at cragop.org. And then you've got the best of concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, you've got the place where you can find all things tactical except a gun. That would be at uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. We'll be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you mañana.